You've all been tweeting about a range of different topics throughout the week. Let's have a quick look at what you've all been talking about.
Trending this week on Twitter were a number of different things. The week started off by going back to Tahrir Square, where a further massacre took place. At Beltrue tweeted asking how many were dead so far. Media standards also got trending, where here in Britain, national broadcaster the BBC took to hiring and firing, the Cookie Monster making an appearance on Newsnight. Another topic which got people talking was a jeans debate in Iran as the world continues to grapple with Islamic dress. But the topic hot on everyone's lips was Tommy Robinson and his departure from the EDL. Is anyone convinced of his conversion?
Joining us now in the studio is Glyn Robbins from United East End and, of course, Abdullah al Andalussi. Okay, well, we saw a few different things there trending on Twitter, one of which was about Tommy Robinson leaving the EDL. I'm going to come very, very briefly on this before we see a clip about this. But, Glyn, what were your immediate reactions?
Well, cautiously welcome this development. See it as a vindication of the things that United East End and other people, I believe the majority of people in this country actually, have been saying over the last few years since the EDL emerged out of the gutter of politics, which is simply a conclusion that Tommy Robinson appears to have arrived at himself now, that those views are abhorrent and have no place in our society.
Abdullah?
I think Tommy Robinson jumped out of one sinking ship and onto another kind of sinking ship to see if he can give it some buoyancy. And I was expecting him to be done, if he was truly going to renounce his previous politics, to be done with anti-Islamic or anti-Islamist politics, but now he's jumped back into virtually the same kind of organisation, except with a more polished and politically savvy face.
Well, there is a lot to be talking about there, and we will come back to that. But as you saw there on our Twitter update, revelations emerged of Tommy Robinson defecting from the far-right group, the English Defence League, on Tuesday afternoon. So with a little more on this, here's Rayhan Clementson.
As headlines emerged online on Tuesday afternoon, it emerged that Tommy Robinson, the founder of the English Defence League, had left the far-right group. The former EDL frontman published a statement through the now privately funded group, the Quilliam Foundation. In a statement, he said, "I acknowledge the dangers of far-right extremism and the ongoing need to counter Islamist ideology, not with violence, but with better democratic ideas." Later in the day, a press conference was held in a secret location in central London amidst fears of the frontman's safety.
I have a passion to combat Islamist ideology, and I said it earlier, I want to lead a revolution against that Islamist ideology, but I don't want to lead a revolution against Muslims. I don't hate Muslims.
Robinson didn't renounce his extremist views, nor provide any evidence of a change in views, and many are saying the move may have been tactical. It was only last month that Robinson led the EDL through a march towards the London borough of Tower Hamlets, which is home to one of the country's largest Muslim communities. The far-right group had aimed to march past the East London Mosque, but were unsuccessful. A judge barred them from marching past the masjid, though they were met further up on their route by protesters from all over the wider community, dwarfing their numbers. The English Defence League says its mission is to tackle what is called Islamist and extremist movements in Britain. Since its formation, its principal activity has been street demonstrations. Commentators say their terminology is inaccurate, and many are sceptical of the significance of Robinson's new platform.
That is sweeping this country at an uncontrollable rate.
Abdullah, now I'm going to come straight to you. A real change? You said he came from one ship flooding onto another.
Well, yeah, I mean, he said he doesn't hate Muslims, but he just hates everything that we believe, basically. He hasn't recanted any of his statements that he said. People have noticed that only just one week beforehand, he was already spouting anti-Islamic ideas and things like this. And I suppose the Quilliam Foundation tried to support they were just basically a footnote in British politics, and they tried to get their own kind of the spotlight back onto themselves via helping Tommy Robinson, quote unquote, helping him to get out of the English Defence League. But I think the real reality is that he left the English Defence League because he noticed that in essence it was the media had put so much pressure on him, put so much pressure and put so much negative attention on the English Defence League that he just had to leave to try to do exactly the same thing, but hopefully with a fresh slate elsewhere.
It was in your hometown, Glyn. Now, just a month ago, he was marching through the streets, or trying to get in,
Well,
let's say.
in fact,
He was trying to get in. Exactly, you stopped him. So what's going on?
Well, I mean, I tend to agree with what Abdullah has just said. I think what we have to ask ourselves is this a change of style or a change of substance? And perhaps to some extent time will tell. My primary concern, as you've suggested, is the safety of my community and my neighbours, Muslims, and others as well. It isn't only Muslims that organisations like the EDL target, but they have a particularly venal approach towards the Islamic community. And, you know, as Abdullah has said, I don't really hear anything significant within what Tommy Robinson is saying to suggest that he has genuinely renounced those kinds of views. What I think he has concluded, and I think I heard him say this, is that no one is listening. And so I think he's now looking for a different avenue, but we will have to be very vigilant. And I think the other thing to make clear is that the history of far-right organisations in this country and elsewhere is that they do reformulate in other guises, so they morph into something different. We've seen the British National Party, we've seen the National Front. The EDL appears now to be on its last legs, as Abdullah says, a sinking ship, but I think we have to be realistic. The ideas haven't necessarily gone away, even if the organisation has.
Evolving into something different, allying with the Quilliam Foundation?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's evolving into something different. I think it's just evolving into a different platform, basically, but saying the same thing. I mean, all the organisations which the EDL in their ignorance called extremists, all the Muslim organisations that the EDL would call extremists, the Quilliam Foundation would probably call exactly the same organisations extremists too. So it's a kind of meeting of minds. They just happen, the people within Quilliam just happen to call themselves Muslim. But basically, they used to tout the government agenda against extremism during the Prevent era and so on, which obviously we're still in.
I saw a piece this morning talking about how has anti-Islamism become mainstream? Is this a way by which it's funneled into something that's much more acceptable?
Well, this concerns me, I have to say. I mean, I don't know a great deal about the Quilliam Foundation, but what I do worry about is that in some ways what's being presented now is an acceptable form of Islamophobia. And I think this is something that has been portrayed in the mainstream media for some years. And I think what we have to be, again, very wary of is any sense that of Tommy Robinson being a kind of agent for mainstreaming of these kinds of views. And so I think, again, you know, we have to confront this and we have to challenge it at every turn and certainly not take for granted or at face value what's being said.
Okay, I just want to get some final comments from you. Now, we've not seen a major uproar. We've seen some ridicule the movement. They've said it's not really a change, as you've said, is it just jumping into the sea? But what does this mean for the EDL? How do they now stand? Are they non-existent?
I think the EDL will try to find some way to justify their existence and continue their marches, perhaps with diminishing membership. I think that basically the EDL had been so demonized by the media that Tommy Robinson just wanted to leave that to do exactly the same job he was doing before. And people that are running the EDL, those who haven't had a face in politics, they would probably want to seek to rise and to continue leading the EDL. I think the EDL will continue doing what it's doing. I think Tommy Robinson will continue doing what he's doing, minus the
You debated him, right? You debated him not so long ago.
Yes, I debated him on a TV program and the topic was is Islam synonymous with terrorism? And he believed that Islam is synonymous with terrorism. And he doesn't renounce any of his previous beliefs, but he's joining the Quilliam Foundation. And I think one of the issues the questions that are raised up by him joining the Quilliam Foundation is Quilliam says it's against Islamism, but all the descriptions of Islamism that they bring is actually Islam. And likewise, when EDL, sometimes they said they were against Islamists, but sometimes they were saying against Islam, and it was always the political aspects of Islam that they were against, which is part of Islam. And so I don't see any difference between those two organisations.
Now, I guess we all will be watching to see how this plays out, all playing our part. But I am going to have to stop there. We have run out of time. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for this evening. I want to thank all of my guests, Glyn Robbins, Abdullah al Andalussi, and of course Walid Saffour for joining us. And of course you at home for watching. Remember to keep up with the Twitter conversation using #TheReport. We will be following the stories throughout the week, so do keep tweeting. If you prefer, you can also email us your thoughts on the report at islamchannel.tv. But for now, we'll leave you some scenes from the holy city of Mecca as pilgrims prepare for the Hajj. Do tune in next week to join us for your report.